Hi, Doug Franklin here in the LeaderTrek's office. I want to talk with you today about the 5 leadership skills you need to teach your student leaders. Now, I know we like to talk about a lot of things when we're thinking about leadership development. We like to look at some biblical passages. We like to look at some good character issues. I think all those things are very important. But when it comes to teaching our students leadership skills, I think there's 5 that you got to hit. Let me start with them. First one is this. We got to help our student leaders understand determining scope and goals of a project. This is really important. This basically, let me rephrase it for you, we got to help our students start at the end and build back to the beginning. We got to help our students understand what does it look like when it's done. That's what leaders do. Leaders see a project when it's complete, and then they build the steps to get there. So student leaders need to determine the scope and the goal of a project. The second leadership skills students must have is they must be able to calculate the people and resources needed to complete a project. Oftentimes, when we have an idea to do something, we think about all the benefits that it'll have, and then we race right out to tell people about it. And we skip this step of calculating the people and the resources that are needed. Jesus taught about this in Scripture when he says, before a man builds a tower, doesn't he first figure out what it's going to cost? Or before a king goes to battle, doesn't he decide whether or not he has enough men to win the fight? This is what we have to do as leaders. We have to calculate the people and the resources needed to complete a project. So the first leadership skill, again, is we have to determine scope and goals. The second one is we got to calculate the people and the resources needed. The third thing we need to help our student leaders understand is the ability to cast vision. One of the things that we need to be able to do as leaders is articulate how the world will be different because of the project that we do together. And helping them understand that if we were to take on doing a car wash and raising money to build a well in the Sudan, how it would help the people of Sudan, what clean water would mean to them, and how the actual work that we would do on a Saturday morning of washing cars would make people's life in a village way off in Africa better. When we can do that as leaders, we inspire people. And the truth of the matter is that leaders have to be motivational. They have to be able to express to their followers why we're doing something, why it's important, and what difference it will make. So they need to be able to cast vision. Let me go over the 3 skills we've talked about so far. We've talked about determining scope and goals. We've talked about calculating the people and the resources needed to complete a project. And now we've talked about casting the vision. The third leadership skills that student leaders need is they need the ability to navigate obstacles. Every time you're in a leadership position, obstacles are going to come. But how we deal with those obstacles is so important. Most of the time, I find that students deal with problems once they get into the middle of them. Think of it as going down a highway and there's a big pothole. The time to think about the pothole is not after your tires hit it. It's actually to think about it before it hits it so you can move around it, so it won't slow you down and it won't keep you from your destination. Leaders need to think much the same way. They need to see ahead what problems could be happening ahead, and they need to navigate around them. So navigating obstacles is a skill we must have as leaders. So again, we've got determining scope and goals, calculating people and resources, casting vision, and now we just talked about all important navigating obstacles. The 5th and final skill every student leader needs, they need to be able to evaluate what's happened. By evaluating, we're simply saying, how can we do this better? And how can we improve next time? When leaders ask this question, they're able to grow. And growth is what being a leader is all about. Listen, I've been a leader for the last 20 years, and I've made tons of mistakes. The question isn't have I ever made a mistake? The question is, have I grown from them? And by growing from them, I grow into a much better leader year in and year out. And students need to understand the same thing. But if we don't evaluate, there won't be any growth. So evaluation is a skill student leaders need. Again, the 5 skills are, they need to first be able to determine the scope and the goals of a project. Second of all, they need to be able to calculate the people and the resources that are needed. Third, they got to be able to cast that vision and inspire people. Fourth, they got to navigate obstacles before they're in them. And 5th, they got to evaluate the process so that they can grow long-term in the future. This has been Doug Franklin at the LeaderTrek's office. Thanks for listening.